Lexington, Yorktown, Hornet, Akagi, 4 carriers, all sunk in the same stretch of the Pacific, all within a single year of each other. And here's the strange part. Some of them sit on the ocean floor right now, fully mapped, lit up in ROV footage, their hull numbers still readable after 80 years. Others have never been found, not partially found, not probably located, never found. So out of every aircraft carrier lost in World War II, which ones did we actually track down, and which ones are still out there? One of the biggest carriers ever built vanished on her very first voyage, and to this day, nobody knows exactly where she's resting. For most of the 20th century, these wrecks just sat there, undisturbed, because nobody had a real way to reach them. We are talking about depths past 3,000 meters, sometimes past 5,000 meters. That is not a depth divers can touch. That takes sonar arrays, submersibles, and millions of dollars, and for decades there was not the money or the motivation to go looking. The wrecks were not a mystery anybody was actively chasing. They were just names in history books, sitting under crushing pressure in the dark. That changed once deep-sea technology caught up with the history. USS Lexington went down at the Battle of Coral Sea in May 1942. Fires spread through her hull after a series of explosions, and once the crew evacuated, American destroyers finished her off so she would not fall into Japanese hands. For 76 years, that was the end of her story. Then in March 2018, Paul Allen's research vessel Petrel found her, sitting over 3,000 meters down. And here is the part that got historians talking. Her aircraft were still on the flight deck. Wildcats, dauntless dive bombers, sitting exactly where they were the day she sank. Paint and squadron markings still visible after 7 decades underwater. Now here is where it gets interesting, because Lexington was not actually the first carrier anyone found. Yorktown was. USS Yorktown took hits at Midway in June 1942, and while she was under tow back to Pearl Harbor for repairs, a Japanese submarine caught her and finished the job. She sank in water over 5,000 meters deep, deeper than Lexington, deeper than almost anything anyone had tried to reach at the time. But in 1998, Robert Ballard's team found her, and if that name sounds familiar, it should. Ballard is the same guy who found the Titanic back in 1985. The same sonar technique, the same deep water expertise, just pointed at the Pacific instead of the North Atlantic. Yorktown became the first World War II carrier wreck ever located, and it proved something the Navy hadn't fully grasped yet. The same tools built to solve one of the ocean's biggest mysteries could just as easily be turned toward the war. These 2 discoveries, Lexington and Yorktown, weren't just closing the book on 2 ships. They were proof the technology had finally caught up to the history. And once that door opened, the same teams that found these wrecks didn't stop there. They kept going, back into the same stretch of Pacific, looking for the rest of the fleet that history had left underwater. Once the technology existed, the Petrel team didn't stop at 2 wrecks. They kept working through the same stretch of Pacific, and the next name on the list was one of the most famous carriers of the entire war. USS Hornet launched the Doolittle raid in April 1942, the mission that sent American bombers over Tokyo just months after Pearl Harbor. 6 months later, at the Battle of Santa Cruz, Hornet took bomb hits and torpedo hits within the same brutal stretch of fighting, and there was no saving her. Fires spread through the hull, the power died, and her crew had to abandon ship. Japanese destroyers finished her off, and she went down in October 1942. Petrel found her in 2019, sitting over 5,000 meters down, and the condition surprised even the search team. Her anti-aircraft guns were still aimed skyward, frozen in the exact position her crew left them in during those final minutes of the battle. Wasp came next. In September 1942, off Guadalcanal, a Japanese submarine put 3 torpedoes into her. Fires broke out fast, fuel lines ruptured, and the flames spread faster than anyone on board could fight. Her own escort ships had to scuttle her to keep her from becoming a drifting hazard. Petrel located the wreck later in 2019, and what they found matched the after-action reports almost point for point. The scorch patterns, the collapsed sections near the fuel stores, all of it lined up with what survivors described decades earlier. For historians, that wasn't just a wreck. That was 70 years of testimony, getting confirmed by hard physical evidence sitting on the ocean floor. Then the search turned to the other side of the war entirely. Akagi, Kaga, Hiryu, and Soryu. 4 Japanese carriers, all lost within a single day at Midway in June 1942, the battle that flipped the entire direction of the Pacific War. These weren't minor ships. Akagi and Kaga were the backbone of the fleet that hit Pearl Harbor 7 months earlier. Losing 4 carriers in one day gutted Japan's naval air power in a way it never recovered from. All 4 wrecks turned up in 2019 in the same patch of ocean, lying close to where their own crews scuttled them once the battle turned. Some sit upright, some are capsized, resting exactly the way they went down. Think about that for a second. These are the ships that carried the pilots who launched the attack that pulled America into the war. And here they are, over 5,000 meters down, sitting in the dark, right where their own sailors left them. Finding Hornet and Wasp closed out the American side of the story. But finding all 4 Japanese carriers from Midway did something bigger. It turned the battle that historians always pointed to as the turning point of the Pacific War into something you could actually see. Not a paragraph in a textbook. 4 wrecks, sitting in formation on the ocean floor, exactly where the tide of the war changed in a single afternoon. For every carrier Petrel tracked down, there's another one that's still missing completely. No wreck footage, no coordinates, nothing. Start with the Imperial Japanese Navy ship, Shinano. She began life as a Yamato-class battleship, the same design as the largest battleships Japan ever built. But partway through construction, Japan's Navy scrapped the plan and converted her into a carrier instead, and not just any carrier. When she was finished, Shinano was the largest aircraft carrier built during the entire war, bigger than anything the Americans had in the water. Except she wasn't really finished. Japan rushed her into commission in secret, desperate to get another flight deck into the fight as the war turned against them. Watertight doors weren't fully installed. Damage control systems hadn't been tested. Entire sections of the ship existed as blueprints more than steel. And less than a day into her first voyage in November 1944, the submarine USS Archerfish put 4 torpedoes into her hull. On a finished ship, that damage might have been survivable. On Shinano, it wasn't. Compartments that should have sealed off didn't. Pumps that should have kept her afloat had never been installed in the first place. She rolled over and sank in under 7 hours, taking most of her crew with her. And here's the detail that still bothers historians. She went down so fast, in such a rushed and undocumented voyage, that nobody ever pinned down exactly where. Shinano has never been found. One of the largest warships ever built, and her final resting place is still disputed today. Then there's IJN Taiho, Japan's newest and most advanced carrier at the time she entered service. Armored flight deck, reinforced hull, everything designed to survive, hits that would have sunk older ships. In June 1944, during the Battle of the Philippine Sea, a single American torpedo struck her. 1 hit. That should have been manageable. But the leading theory, and it's still a theory, not settled fact, is that the torpedo ruptured aviation fuel lines somewhere deep in the hull. Fumes crept through the ventilation system for hours, filling compartment after compartment. Then something, maybe an electrical spark, maybe a generator, set it off, and the fumes ignited in a chain reaction that tore the ship apart from the inside. Taiho sank within hours of what should have been a survivable hit. And just like Shinano, nobody has ever located her wreck. She's out there somewhere in deep Pacific water, no confirmed coordinates, no expedition that's ever closed the case. That's the real split here. The carriers Petrel found, Lexington, Yorktown, Hornet, Wasp, Akagi, Kaga, Hiryu, Soryu, gave historians something they didn't have before: hard, physical proof to match the paper record. Shinano and Taiho never got that. They're still open questions, sitting somewhere in the dark without a single coordinate attached to either one. Some of history's biggest ships gave up their secrets the moment deep-sea tech caught up with them. Others are still down there right now, without a trace. The largest aircraft carrier ever built sank on her first voyage, and 80 years later, nobody's found her. Until someone does, that mystery stays open. If you want more deep dives into the wreck's history left behind, subscribe, and send this to someone who'd want to know where these ships actually ended up.